my clients come in and they feel anywhere from attracted to me to have fallen in love with me. And there's so much richness there to process around what is it about me that you're finding attractive? What is it about? And a lot of times it really comes down to feeling loved, right? Like they're feeling so seen and so safe.
There's that, of course, but then there's also this fantasy piece. There is I call it hot for teacher piece. There's something exciting about, oh, this is a professional. You're not supposed to be attracted to this person. It's like this person's off limits,
Yes,
and
that is there too.
that makes the fire that makes the fire bigger sometimes.
There is a fight. Yeah.
So you confessed to your therapist that you were attracted to your therapist, and what was the response? How'd it go?
I'm John Kim, a licensed therapist who used to be a miserable fuck before going on a hero's journey and turning expired relationships into revelations. I use my story to help others come with you instead of at you, unrehearsed on purpose, because self-help doesn't have to be polished or complicated, just honest.
So one of the topics that I want to pull the curtain back on is the stuff that happens in the room, therapy rooms with clients and therapists, which is kind of the premise of my new book, Shit Your Therapist Would Never Tell You. And so one of the chapters I talk about is the chemistry that happens, the crushes, the back and forth, where it's coming from. And a lot of times we're supposed to process it, but we don't. So I got lucky enough today to bring an actual person that's not me who has experienced both crushes and we'll get into it, but, Rebecca, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being here. I gotta say it's courageous for you to be here because, again, this is stuff that we don't talk about, This is stuff that especially clients as well.
Yeah, I agree. When I was thinking about, I got your offer to come on here, there was a pause of, is this something I really want to talk about? And as I sat with it, I think the more we take the shame away, the more we can talk about these things. I think it can help so many people. It's happening. And so as we can name these different experiences, I think that's my biggest intention is to just normalize we're human. And
Yeah, humanize the therapist is
exactly.
the flag I've
Yeah.
been running with for so many years. Okay, so paint us the picture. So give us a little backdrop on why you went to therapy, who this person was, and just like what happened.
Yeah. So why I went to therapy. So I originally went to therapy. I was in a relationship and we were having a lot of conflict. And my at that time girlfriend was seeing this therapist and she really wanted me to see a therapist. I actually had previous trauma in therapy, so I didn't want to see a therapist. So
Oh
she
wait,
was like, "What?"
real quick, can you talk about what was traumatic? Get a previous traumatic experience in therapy?
Yeah, when I was a teenager, I went to treatment. I was actually just interviewed on a podcast a few weeks ago about my experience in treatment. I'd be happy to send it to you as well, but the treatment center was quite abusive, and so
Oh, that's a whole
there was
nother
this it's a
that's a
whole
whole 'nother
'nother
thing. Yeah,
topic,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's just like a whole separate topic.
Is this a residential treatment?
It was a residential
Right.
treatment center,
Yeah, yeah.
yes. Yeah. So at this point, I was 25 and, had stayed away from therapists, and for the listeners here, I am a therapist now. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, so
So many layers here.
so many layers,
Yeah.
right? So I was willing to see her therapist, and the reasons were to get some support on what was coming up for me in that relationship so that my partner and I could come back into connection. So that's what led me to see her.
Mhm. Wait, you skipped over the you don't have to talk about it if you don't want to, but you skipped over the previous experience you had that was traumatic with a therapist
Oh,
in rehab.
I'm happy to go into that more. I mean, that one's it's quite complicated, but the therapist is very behaviorally oriented
Mhm.
and you are like stuck. It was in a house and there's a lot of rules and a lot of control. And the therapy is a part of like, you have to do as I say type of therapy. If you say the wrong thing, you're shamed. We had group therapy where like survivors of this program, we call it shame attack therapy. So it was really intense and we were all trying to survive. You had to get a certain amount of points to eventually leave. In order to leave, the therapist had to approve of you. And so it was really not true therapy in the way, right? There's not unconditional positive regard. There's
Right.
a
It
lot of
seemed like
judgment.
gamified treatment.
Exactly, and, like, outright punishments for saying the wrong thing or feeling the wrong way, and then some of those punishments were quite abusive, so
So that whole experience was traumatic, you're saying?
absolutely,
Yeah.
yes.
And you were young.
Yeah, I was 16 and 17. I was there for 9 months, which is
Oh,
a long
wow.
time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so by the time I was 25, I didn't wanna see a therapist. We had done my girlfriend at that time, like, we had done a couple session with her prior. I had met her, honestly had a crush on her pretty immediately, but there was something also about her that felt safe
Mm.
and open, very different from any other therapist that I
Was the crush just like what you said initially? So was there you thought she was physically attractive or was it through a conversation? What was initial?
attraction in general, I find so fascinating, right? It's like, what makes us feel attracted to someone?
Mhm.
Definitely a physical attraction, but something deeper as well. It wasn't just like, "Oh, she's pretty." There was, like, a magnetism that I felt,
Yeah.
like, pulling me towards her, but also pleasurable. Like, I felt really good when I was in her presence.
Mm.
We were in this bind, my ex and I, where we needed support. I was really scared to reach out to a random therapist, and so we asked this woman. I'm gonna use her name. It's a common name, so I feel like I can just say the first name. Her name was Kate, if she would see me as well, and she said yes. So this automatically very quickly became complicated because she was now seeing both my girlfriend and I as separate
Right.
clients.
And I gotta say, a lot of therapists do that. It isn't necessarily unethical. We will see one unit as a couple, and then sometimes we'll see them individually as well. Yeah.
Yeah, it really depends on the dynamic. I think working with her changed my life in a lot of ways, so I am grateful that she did take it on, and it did cause trouble in our relationship. Yeah, I have a very mixed feelings about
Yeah.
doing
Because
that with
there could be
couples.
bias. There could, and then also,
Yeah.
your partner can feel like you guys are teaming up on me. Like there's so many things that could happen. Yeah, dynamic wise.
Absolutely. I mean, there was one fight I know my ex and I got into. We were long distance at that point too, so she ended the phone call with, "Don't talk to me until after my session with Kate." Right? And so that type of dynamic where it's like, we can't even be in connection, but you're gonna go to your therapist, who's also my therapist, to complain about me and what just happened. It got very triangulated, and part of what was happening in that dynamic for me in the therapy was I was feeling so much more understood and seen and heard by Kate than by my partner. I only worked with her for, I think, between like 6 to 8 weeks before I ended up breaking up with my partner, and there was, like, a huge moment. We did do a couple session, and I remember how deeply seen and understood I felt by Kate and how completely misunderstood I was feeling by my girlfriend, and we'd been at it for so long, me just trying to feel that same level of understood, and I think I thought, like, it's something about me, it's something about the way I'm communicating it, and then to be so quickly understood by Kate was like, "Oh, maybe it's not me. Maybe this just isn't a good fit."
Was part of the attraction that here's someone who understands you, sees you, you
Yeah,
feel safe with, like almost like this idea of a corrective experience.
absolutely. I think with my childhood experiences and a lot of trauma in my family, didn't feel seen or understood by them, felt quite rejected by my family, had been in these challenging relationships, and then here's this person who I already have a crush on, who I already find attractive, who really sees me and gets me. And, in the moment where I broke up with my ex, I wasn't relating to Kate as I was very clear on the relationship, right? I was very clear on she's showing me what's possible in connection. The connection's not going to be with her, but she's showing me that there can be somebody else, that this is so much easier than what I have with my current relationship.
How did your attraction to your therapist translate into the room? So, well, first of all, did you tell your therapist you're attracted to your therapist, or no, you kept it secret, but you probably felt something, or maybe she felt something.
I held it in for about 6 months, and then it was starting to come up in some pretty big ways, and so I did tell her in a session, and I went into that session. I'd done the Googling of, like, "I'm attracted to my therapist. Is this bad?" And all this stuff shows up of, like, it's normal. It happens to so many people. So I did tell her, and I wasn't sure what was gonna happen. I thought that she might say, like, "That's it's not bad, but I probably shouldn't be your therapist," right? That I might get referred out after this session,
Rejected,
and
yeah. Well, first, I just wanna say, I applaud you for having the courage to bring it up.
mm,
Most people do not. Most people don't process it, which is, when you go to grad school, and you know this because 'cause you're a therapist,
mhm,
what's prescribed is that we talk about it or else it gets in the way of therapy, right? So
absolutely.
but a lot of clients will not talk about that because it's so personal, it's vulnerable, it's weird,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I've had multiple clients, my clients come in and they feel anywhere from attracted to me to have fallen in love with me. And there's so much richness there to process around what is it about me that you're finding attractive? What is it about? And a lot of times it really comes down to feeling loved, right? Like they're feeling so seen and so safe.
There's that, of course, but then there's also this fantasy piece. There is I call it hot for teacher piece. There's something exciting about, oh, this is a professional. You're not supposed to be attracted to this person. It's like this person's off limits,
Yes,
and
that is there too.
that makes the fire that makes the fire bigger sometimes.
There is a fight. Yeah.
So you confessed to your therapist that you were attracted to your therapist, and what was the response? How'd it go?
I think she was taken off guard and she just kind of shrugged it away. She was like, okay. And she's like, that was courageous to tell me. And that was it. And so I was like, huh, like,
Well, how did that make you feel?
okay. I think it was mixed. I think there was a relief of, oh, she's not going to refer me out because of this. I'm not going to lose her. She's not judging me. I felt zero judgment. It wasn't like, oh, you're not supposed to feel that way towards me. There was just like, all right, like that's just here. I felt relief. And then oh, what would be the word for this? Like, I think I just kind of felt left hanging of like, well, what do
Yeah,
I do with this? Like,
yeah.
how do I be with this? How do I make sense of this?
Was there part of you that's like, "Oh, you're not taking me seriously," or, like, minimizing, or it feels why do you think that was her response? I have an idea, and I'm not her, so I don't know for sure, but why do you think her response was super calm, super collective, and just like, "Oh, yeah, okay," and then on to the next?
Well, she was very young. So she was only 27. And I think she genuinely did not know
Let's
what
do
to
with
do
it.
with that. So, yeah.
Right. What's funny is, like, we're trained in therapy school to be so neutral and so calm.
Mhm.
So when we hear things like that, or if someone, suicidal ideation or anything where we should be nervous, we try so hard not to
Mm.
show it that we almost overcorrect and just like it's almost dismissive because we're trying to prove to you that we are safe and that nothing's gonna shake us, kind of thing. And sometimes I feel like it's better just to be fucking honest, like, oh, like show the expression, and I don't know what to do with it. And that's.
Yeah, and one of the things that came up a lot in the therapy with her so I ended up working with her for 2.5 years, and there was a lot of ruptures and a lot of repair processing going on, and the ruptures were kind of mutual, which is very rare for therapy, right? It's usually the client who is experiencing the rupture, the therapist is holding the space to work through the rupture. But she would get very activated with me as well.
Mhm.
And a lot of what came up was this really deep fear of her being an inadequate therapist, was a really of being the bad therapist, of not being good enough. And that anytime I felt hurt, it got filtered through either I don't like her or I'm judging her as a therapist. And so I think she just genuinely didn't have that capacity to ever say like, "Oh, like, I don't know how to respond to that," or how to be with that, or what to say, or "I wasn't expecting you to say that," to be in that space because she was holding a lot of pressure on herself to be this perfect therapist.
Yes. So I also made a huge, I would say, mistake when I was starting out post my Tumblr days, and this is before like teletherapy. People weren't, but my first client, I think my first like legit client, I saw her online, and you weren't supposed to,
Mm,
and she was following my Tumblr and stuff, so she knew a lot about me. I was very transparent as a blogger, and then one day she stated that, "Hey, I think I'm falling in love with you," or maybe she didn't say I think, maybe she said I am.
mhm,
And I didn't know how to take it, and, I think there was a part of me. I mean, I minimized it. I did what your therapist did, is I really brushed it off, and I said, a lot of chemistry happens. You're not falling in love with me, you're falling in love with a projection of me or the poster of me. You're filling in a lot of blanks." I try to explain to her all the things that happens to prove to her that it wasn't love, or and by doing so, I minimized it. I stole her truth from her. I tried to twist it. Part was my own insecurity in that, of course, like, I just felt like, "Oh, I don't she's not falling in love with me. That's ridiculous." And then I think she got pissed. She came for a few more sessions, and I think she was really hurt by it,
Yeah.
and I didn't know what to do, but, I dismissed it because I was trying to be, like, humble about it, or didn't really believe that she was falling in love with me, and I think by dismissing it, she felt that I wasn't holding space for her truth, and then I haven't talked to her since. This is years ago, but I think she got really angry at me and was hurt by me. It's something I can't go back and fix now, but I feel like I fucked up, those early days.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just really appreciating, like, the depth of reflection that you're giving that I think those early days are hard, and there's so many situations that we come into that grad school doesn't even begin to prepare us for. And I think too, there is as a therapist, when I've had a client fall in love with me, I can resonate with this experience of like, yes, those feelings are I think they're real for the client, but also they're only experiencing this very limited part of me,
Version
right?
of you.
This
Yeah.
very limited
Yeah.
version of me that is completely centered around them and being attuned to them.
They're seeing your highlight reel.
Yes,
They're seeing the best
100%,
of Rebecca, right,
100%.
right.
And so, like, holding that piece where I can feel like I resonate too with what you're saying of, like, you're in love with this projection of me because I've also had that as a therapist where it's somewhat of a projection, but it's maybe not a full projection, but it's certainly not fully me. Like, you don't know fully me. I'm not fully me in this space because this space is so centered on you as it's supposed to be for healing.
How did you handle it when a client told you they're falling in love with you?
The first time that happened, I was tracking it for a long time before
Oh,
he
you
said it.
felt it.
I did.
And
Yes.
wait,
So
what are some of the signs that you felt? Her trying to kiss you? Or what are some of the
the
signs?
client?
Yeah, the
No,
client
no,
trying to.
no. The client is a male.
Oh, male, okay.
What did I feel from him? I mean, this client has so many deep relational wounds, like, really has never had a safe person in his life in any capacity, and I
Was he
think the way
flirting with you?
he was not flirting. He would talk about how, like, he thinks about me a lot, how resourcing it is all the time for him to think of me. I had made a voice note for him when he would have certain stressful situations that was super regulating for him.
Well, also, I gotta say, also intimate. You get a voice note from your therapist, that's very intimate.
Mhm, and
And
it was
also
like
you feel
a
like
saved yeah.
well, you also feel like, "Oh, that I'm special." They're
Mm,
actually doing a voice
mhm,
note for me, not just an email, but they're actually there's something on a voice note, I think, that is, when a client gets it from
mhm.
her therapist, it means so much.
Yeah, and I don't even know, like, it's a really great question you're asking, and I'd have to, like, to think back on what was if anything specific was being said, but it was more of an energy that
Mhm.
I just was feeling of, I think this person's falling in love with me, and it kind of came up a little bit, and then they kind of took it back really fast. They're like, "No, I think it's just I kind of just wish you were my mom." And this person is holding both at the same time. Like they do wish I was their mom. And there's this romantic
Right.
pull as well. And we see that in normal romantic relationships, right? Like
Sure. Yeah.
we're drawn to people that can meet us in ways that we weren't met by our parents. And so
Right.
when he said that, I was just holding like that's not what I'm sensing, but I'm not gonna say anything and we'll keep going about the therapy. And in that moment I did say, like, if that ever shifts for you, I just want you to know it does happen that people can develop feelings for their therapist, and if that's here, we can talk about it. So, yeah, I think maybe, like, 6 months later, he did confess to that, and we've just been with that, and it's been hard. It was hard for him to really make contact with the depth of those feelings and the reality that won't get to be played out and deciding whether, he still wants me as his therapist, and, yeah, there's a lot of deep, real stuff that comes up there, real
Yeah.
disappointment, real pain.
I
Yeah.
mean, you're supposed to take the actual crush and, there's a difference between having a crush on your therapist or actually believing you're falling in love with your therapist. I think,
Mhm.
there's different layers and different
There are
levels, but
yes.
you're supposed to take that and you're supposed to use it as a vehicle to process and to learn more about the client as well as the therapist and the relationship. I mean, you're supposed to it can be gold if you're really bringing it into the room, That's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, and I think that that crush feeling versus feeling in love with is different, and once it gets to the in love, that's where it's really hard, that's where it's really
Yes, yes.
heartbreaking, right? They
Right,
have to make
right.
contact with this reality that they're not gonna be able to be with the therapist who they feel in love with, versus the crush is like, "Yeah, we're in this fantasy place, I wish I could be with you," like, that would feel really good, and then we can really work on and look at, okay, what is it about me that you're attracted to, that you're wanting to really expand what they're wanting in their personal life.
I mean, if you think about it, the vulnerability and courage it takes to sit in front of someone and say, "Hey, I think I'm falling in love with you,"
Yeah.
knowing that you're gonna get rejected, most likely,
Yes.
right? And if you're a therapist, you don't say to your client, "Hey, listen, first of all, there's no way anything's gonna happen." I mean, you got it's such a delicate thing to hold
It's so delicate.
because it's a balance between, "I hear you, and I don't wanna minimize it, and your feelings are real and valid, and also, yeah, there's stuff happening underneath that you may not be aware of. It may not be love." Like, it's hard to you know?
Yeah. Or maybe it is, right? Maybe it's like this sometimes I wanna hold, like, we're taught so much about the transference, the erotic transference, and all the things that can lead to that.
Well, let's first, what is transference? What is counter-transference? So the audience
Oh,
knows,
for the
just not
audience.
jail
So,
breast strokes,
yes,
yeah.
yes, the transference is what a client is bringing in, like, underneath the surface. It's what gets projected into the space of the therapy. The countertransference is what the therapist is bringing in under the surface that gets projected onto the
When I
client.
asked you, you thought I didn't know, you're like, John, are you sure you're a licensed
I was
therapist?"
yeah, like,
Uh,
"Are you not familiar with these words?"
yeah. No, so the audience no, yes. So,
Yeah,
yeah, the counter-transference belongs to the therapist, transference belongs to the client.
yeah.
Yes, yes.
And, I do think there's a space here, right, where, yes, sometimes it's truly just erotic transference of the client. There's sexuality is so complex. I love learning about it, but our wounds do sometimes get channeled through sexual desire when we don't want to look at the pain of the wounds. And it
Sure.
can be a sort of bypassing or fantasy or being saved, or there's so many ways that that can come up, or even being afraid of love. I there's a client that have worked with around this where it was easier in his body to go to arousal around me than to acknowledge that he felt love from me. Like, that he was receiving love, like,
Oh,
that
yeah, that's
that
interesting,
was,
right.
so tender, and he hadn't really felt that before. So, that's what I would hold as that erotic transference, right? Like, how are we shifting the emotional into the sexual as, like, almost a bypassing of the emotional?
You said something that I, think is so great. You said something about wounds being the channel to, sexual attraction, or you said it in a different way, but I
Yeah,
noted it.
there's a lot of times I think as wounds come up, we can bypass them through sexual energy, right?
Mm,
Through the
right.
objectification and sexualization
Well, and
and
then labeling that as, "Oh, I must be attracted to this person, or I must be falling in
mhm,
love," when that may not be the case, but even though that's how it
mhm,
feels.
even though that's how it feels.
So this happens out of the therapy room. This happens in
Oh,
relationships,
all the time.
right? Yeah,
All
I
the
mean,
time.
this is why a lot of people are attracted to the same type of person, but only the faces change because there's something
Yes.
that they are repeating that's a dynamic, or the whole, like, the explosive lightning in the bottle, sexual attraction chemistry. There's more happening underneath. It's not just because you find someone physically attractive, or they're funny, or they look great in jeans.
Right.
There's other stuff, and like you're saying, yes, wounds, and yeah.
Yeah, and it can be complicated, so I do think there's that piece of, yes, this is a transference, and it's heightened when you're so attuned to, like, I think our society is starving for attunement, right? A lot of people did not really get that from their parents or society when they were younger, and then we're walking around pretending like we don't need it, or sometimes going to the other side and needing it from everyone. But to just sit with someone who to really feel seen by, I think then in the, like, emotional intimacy can very quickly evoke a sexual desire, and being with that, and then this is where it gets tricky of, like, where we label it as, like, transference versus genuine attraction, and I don't feel particularly strong about which one we're using unless it's very evidently transference
I mean,
because
can't both
the
be happening? Can't you
I
genuinely
think
be
s
attracted to the person and it's nothing
yeah,
deeper? It just I really think find this person really
I
attractive and then
think
also
s
transference as well?
I think so, and I think even as as you're talking that it happens outside the therapy room, right? Like, we're constantly in a projection state even when we're connecting to somebody, and oftentimes when we feel attracted to people or fall in love with people, and so I try to hold that with a lot of care of, like, this might be coming from wounds, it might be genuine, and either way, we can work with this to move into something that's healing, whether it's there's a wound getting projected that needs some healing, or there's something safe here relationally that they've never felt before
Mhm.
that we want to land on and name so that they can bring that out in the world and create that with someone in their life.
Yeah. I was thinking about, a time in my life when I was the client and, I was, looking for a therapist. I found a therapist and, just going by a little picture on, say, Psychology or Today or whatever, you don't really think much. I went and met her, and she was stunning, and, I was attracted to her physically,
You were
and
attracted to her more than you are typically attracted to.
yes, yes, and, I remember, okay, I'm not getting much out of these sessions, but I kept going because for an hour, I got to talk to someone attractive. I got to be a part of the quad. I got to converse with the prettiest girl in the room. I got to and I realized, "Oh, there's something happening here where it may stem from just trying to chase pretty girls or knowing that this person wasn't gonna reject me in that way, like, she's not going anywhere, she's not gonna leave the room kinda thing, you know?" And then after a while, that faded, and I realized, "Oh, I'm actually not getting a lot." Like, the fact that she was attractive got in the way of what I would say in the room, you know?
Yeah, that can happen, and I think when I go back to that dynamic with Kate, like, I was extra sensitive to her. We did have a lot of ruptures, and I think that was a part of it, was, like, this extra feeling of rejection and wanting her to really like me. And what was never I could never really fully understand was she seemed equally extra sensitive to me. And that was, I think, where this was a bit of a unique experience where those ruptures would just come into these conflicts. I actually brought it in. I was talking to a classmate. I was in grad school at this time, and the TA overheard, and she decided to bring it in to the lecture for the class. She's like, "Can you share what happened?" And was put on the spot. I didn't really want to share, but I did.
Mhm.
And then the class talked about it for 45 minutes of dissecting, like, what is going on in this dynamic. I did not share that I was attracted to her or that I had feelings for her, but just about this particular rupture that we'd had and how complicated it got. And the
Yeah.
feedback I really got from the class was they were like, "Becca, this doesn't sound like a rupture with a therapist. This sounds like a conflict that a couple would come into therapy with."
Mm.
And so there was this very tricky dynamic playing out. Yeah, it's I mean, it's something that has stayed with me and just, like, holding that, like, for her as a therapist, she was also vulnerable to however she felt about me, and I don't know if it was a mutual attraction or just some sort of feeling like sh just really, really caring about what I thought about her, so very easily hurt, but there was some sort of attachment to me, and then in my attachment to her that we both had these very, disorganized attachments playing off of each other that it got messy.
Yeah, but, if you can repair ruptures, especially with your therapist, you guys actually get closer. You can actually fall more in
Exactly.
love with your therapist because
Totally.
just because you feel closer because in other relationships, that person might not have been able to repair that, but in this one, this person does, and so you feel more closer to that person.
Yes. And I think that actually spiraled what was going on even more because we would feel closer, and then we'd feel, more sensitive to
And more
rejection
activated.
after that,
By being
right?
close, you're more
Mhm.
activated. Yeah.
Then
Oh
it's
my
even
god.
scarier. One of my
Oh,
mentors,
sounds exhausting.
I love this quote. He says, "For people with a lot of complex trauma, connection is our deepest desire and greatest fear. So as we
Mhm.
come deeper and deeper into connection, which is the desire, we're more and more scared." And so
Yes.
that was
Yes,
just
which
playing off of itself.
but, in a nutshell, that's why love is so hard.
Yes.
Isn't that? It's like it's
Yeah.
contradictory. It's the hot and cold and the yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that the experience I had was a waste, but I wish See, I didn't have the courage to tell her that I was attracted to her. Part of it is I didn't wanna give her that. Part of it was like, "Oh, you're pretty, you've always been pretty," which means you probably,
You
you
probably
were
know
the
you're pretty.
you probably know you're pretty.
Mhm.
You were the prom queen. I'm not gonna let you know that I have a crush on you because then I'm predictable, so I'm not gonna say that. So
Like, there's,
ego
like a power,
there's
like,
power, there's ego,
interpretation.
sure. And then
Yeah,
also it's like, "Oh, I wanna be on your level. If I tell you I have a crush on you, now I'm just one of those," you know? Like, and so I didn't say it, and I should have because if I did, I would have given her the opportunity to talk about that. I don't know if she would have, but if she did, then those sessions wouldn't have been wasted. In that it wouldn't have just been me flirting with my therapist for an hour. It
right.
would have been some
Yeah,
deeper stuff we
it's
could have gotten to, like mother wounds and patterns and all that.
right, and, like, how much judgment I'm just hearing all this self-judgment on yourself for just being like, "Oh, I'm just one of the hundreds or thousands of men that have had a
Oh,
crush on
Rebecca,
her,"
you're so
right?
good. Rebecca, you're so good. I got to have you on again.
I'd love to
Did
be
you
on
did you
again.
listen to what she caught? Yes, absolutely. I mean, I think it started when I first came to America and I was Korean, everyone was white, and me trying to get validation, the 12-year-old Korean boy with a bowl haircut trying to, get an American girl to like him because if she did, then he would fit in, and so the desperation of that and then that kind of becoming the pattern, and then, in high school and stuff, always trying to chase the prettiest girl in the room because if she liked me, then I had value and worth and all that, so
Wow. There's so much there to be unpacked with this therapist.
yes, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, but here's the point is that we didn't unpack it. Like, the
right.
point is that we skipped that because people weren't being honest, people weren't willing to bring it into the room, myself as a client, and then if she felt me flirting, or if she felt like our sessions weren't going anywhere, but just noticed that I was just coming like, she should have asked me, she should have
Mhm.
said, "Hey, I'm kinda curious," whatever, like, she should have brought it up without pointing a finger or accusing,
Yeah.
and that could have led somewhere, but she didn't, and so it just faded, and one day I just stopped going.
Yeah, and I think that just comes back to this place of so many therapists are not taught about this in grad school. My grad school was actually almost hyper focused on it. They're like, "Be prepared. You're gonna have clients come in that are gonna have crushes on you. They're gonna fall in love with you. They're gonna talk about sexual fantasies with you, and, like, you need to know how to hold that and how to be with that," to the point where we thought it would happen all the time. It doesn't happen all the
Right, right,
time.
right.
It does
Well,
happen, though.
clients saying, disclosing their personal fantasies about you, that's
Yeah.
next level. That's a whole no
Yeah.
how do you hold that? And they're telling you like, "Oh, I masturbated to you last night, and let me tell you what I thought about." Like, you're just like, "Oh, okay."
And I have had that happen, and I think there's a holding of why are we talking about it, right? So if there's actually something of them wanting to understand why they're thinking of me or what's going on in that way, I'm open to that conversation. Sometimes though, it's almost this like power play,
Yeah,
right? Because
it's
they're
them poking you.
feeling
They're
yeah, and they're feeling
testing.
that there might be an attraction, there's a frustration, they can't act on it. So then it's like, okay, well, what if I say this thing? Well, it's a complicated holding, and when I've had that happen, I get a lot of consultation around it to make sure that
That's never happened to me, but I can see that it's like, "Okay, I'm paying you. You're holding space for me. Hold this hot potato." And then you disclose something that's really hard for them to hold, almost as a test, almost as a yeah, there's
yeah, there's so many different reasons that can come in. So, yeah, saying openly curious before, because it's easy to wanna shut that out of, like, "That's not appropriate here."
right.
But then it's like, "Okay, well, actually, this space is supposed to be open for you to share anything and not be shamed for it." And so is there something deeper that you're wanting from sharing this with me? Right? Like, what is underneath that? What is it that you're wanting for yourself? And even when they're sometimes, if it is saying, I've had, the response of like, I'm wanting you to enjoy it. And like, okay, like, let's, like, it's like almost
Oh,
like
the client
a
saying, "I
hope.
want you to enjoy this
Yeah. Like, there's a
me fantasizing
hope
about you?"
that if I tell you about this, then you'll meet me in the fantasy. So then it's
Oh,
again like
right, right.
being with that of like,
Oh,
this
it's like,
is,
"I can't have you, but, let me think of a way where we could actually dance, where we could share
yeah.
something, even right? Because I know they will never be together, so let me tell you a deep, sexual fantasy, and then can we have a conversation about that? Can you meet me halfway there, even though we're not gonna execute on it?"
Yeah.
Or maybe
Exactly.
we are, I don't know. Let's, yeah.
Right, and then me having to hold that boundary and saying, "I'm not gonna meet you there, but I wanna be with the frustration that you're in and wanting this fantasy," and also naming that it still isn't inappropriate leaning in to ask me to meet them there, right? So we're dancing with, like, how are we rel how is this person relating to me in power as a woman, and they're feeling disempowered, the frustration, there's so many different layers to unpack, and as long as I can hold name it, but not shame it, right?
Mhm.
And that's where we growth and self-reflection really happen.
There's also a difference culturally, I think, if a woman tells her male therapist about a sexual fantasy she had about him, as opposed to a man telling his female therapist the sexual fantasy he had about her,
Yeah.
especially if it's, like, graphic or something. There's something about it that seems more, like, predatory or something. Boundaries, I don't know.
So I think it can be done predatorily. I have not experienced that predatorily. I have experienced it as just, like, the wounded it's a man, but it's, like, his wounded teenage boy part that just feels rejected by women and is trying to see, like, is there any way to get connection? Not in, like,
Yes.
"I'm gonna
Yes.
overpower you
It's a
and
way to
make you
connect, right.
uncomfortable." Right. But I do think there's a certain type of person that might use that more predatorially. I don't think that type of person is as likely to come to therapy in general, but I could see in certain situations that coming up. Yeah.
There's definitely a shadow that could come from sexual fantasy,
Mhm.
and that can make people feel really uncomfortable.
Definitely.
Let me ask you before we leave, what made you become a therapist?
It's interesting, but that connection, the therapy with Kate outside of the complications, feeling very seen and held in that way was the first time that I felt like, "Oh, wow, like, this can really be healing. There's real healing potential here," and up until that point, I'd had many people telling me that I would make a great therapist, and I would push it away. It's like, "Absolutely not," and so after this personal experience of feeling the healing components of the therapy with her, I was like, "Okay, I can do this. This feels like something I would want to" not on the complicated rupture side, but in general, the healing and that I was feeling from the positive components of that I would love to provide for other people.
Most people become therapists because of what you just said, because of their own experience with therapy and how their therapist changed their life or was a catalyst, and then it gives them fuel to wanna help other people, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's a noble decision, and,
Thank you.
how are you in your career? How do you like it? What do you do? Are you active on social? Are you building a practice? What are you doing as a
I
therapist?
am. I am active on social. So I have a private practice. I
Mhm.
am licensed in California, Utah, and Colorado.
Wow.
Yeah, thank you. All
So
of it's
you're licensed at wait, is it because you wanna do online, and so you're
I'm
licensed in.
doing mostly online. I live in Colorado.
Can I just say, as
Yes.
someone who took the easy way out, I just said, "Fuck it, I'm calling myself a coach, and I'll see you it doesn't matter where you
Mm,
are in the world," which is kind of a way of 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 hopping that fence, but if you
yeah.
don't know, therapists are only supposed to, see clients in their own state, and so when the webcam was invented and broadband, it threw a huge wrench into the system, which I still believe is outdated, and so you're still only supposed to see people in your state, which is crazy.
Yes, I agree that it's crazy. So, yes, that's where I'm licensed. I have a TikTok and Instagram in YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube
Yeah.
account
Yeah.
under my name, Rebecca Prolman. And then I also have I've made a few healing courses online that listeners can find at RebeccaProlman.com to understand I specialize in complex trauma, which is that early childhood relational wounding. And these core dilemmas we come up against that really impact our mental health and how we're relating to ourselves and our nervous systems in adulthood. So those are available as well.
Well, Rebecca, I have something to say to you. I'm falling in love with you.
Oh,
I'm
it's
just
just
kidding. No, I do wanna say, Rebecca, you never know what you're gonna get when you put a call out in social media and who falls from the sky, and, I'm so happy you're here, and
thank you.
also, I lucked out that you were a therapist, so you could speak the language and understand all these
Yeah,
things, and it wasn't just, someone sharing a story, I guess, about falling in love with their therapist, but you were able to go deeper with me, and which I really appreciate.
thank you. I really appreciated this conversation and the curiosity about it. Thank you for providing the space.
Yeah. Where can I think you already said, but where can we find you? as far as on social?
On Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, it's my name. So Rebecca Prolman is my handle.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right. More about Rebecca in the show notes. And Rebecca, thank you for being here. And everyone, thank you for listening. Oh, by the way, you could read pages of my book as I'm writing it, which is the first time I've ever done this on Substack. Shit Your
Mm,
Therapist would never tell you on my
mm,
Substack at The Angry Therapist. Thank you.
amazing.